I have to click start, please.
Doing it? Okay.
You're all set?
Yep.
The time is 6:30, and with us tonight is Gavin Keel, City Attorney, Ben Peters, Bill Lois, myself, Michael Gary, Mike Roth, Kim Van Beck, and Maddie Lehman. We had everybody? Everyone else online, right? That's it. Okay. Open forum, and I'm assuming you're here on the agenda. So that means there's really nobody here for open forum this evening. So with that, we will move on. The consent agenda, if anyone has any amendments or would like to approve that, any changes?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll second that.
thank you. Anything further on that? All right, all in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good. New business. Andrea Orst is here, and that's page 19, which I'm going to go to right now. Andrea Orst is here to speak to us about a public health vending machine, which is that's considered, I believe, a county initiative. So, if you just want to introduce yourself as always, and then.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm Andrea Orris. I work for Cook County Public Health. So the information was provided in the packet sort of on the what a public health vending machine is, the history of the project, sort of what we are looking at for the future, and then our outreach and education and community engagement plan, as well as what we could potentially be coming to ask you for in the future. So I don't know, do you want me to talk about the information at all, or do you want to just ask me questions and then what is your preference?
Would you guys like a quick summary of this, or just move on to any questions you have?
Whichever. I just have a couple questions, but nothing.
We'll start with questions then?
Sure.
All right,
Sure.
then.
Okay, who's paying for the machines?
So the machine is already purchased through a grant that we received. Actually, the grant that we received it under is already completed. So last summer was the end of a 4-year grant that we were collaborating with the University of Minnesota Duluth on, with quite a few other agencies in town. But the machine was purchased under that grant by the University of Minnesota for our community. So that is how the machine was purchased, and then the ongoing costs associated with the machine is also either grant funded or covered by our opioid settlement funds that we received. In 2024, the county commissioners approved approximately $50,000 worth of those settlement funds to be used toward prevention, treatment, and recovery to complement the Rural Community Opioids Grant. So we still have quite a bit of those funds that we haven't used. Risk reduction is not really a huge need in our community right now, but it's also a fairly new initiative. So not everybody is aware that the resources are available either. So we have, I can't say for sure how long those funds would last, but beyond that, then we would be, it would be grant funded.
And so there's one machine looking to be placed in Grand Marais area, is that the ask or the?
Yeah, we have one machine, we actually already have it, we received it last year, it's in storage. So now we are going through that sort of community engagement phase to figure out, you know, the whole purpose of the machine is to have it in a place where the community wants it, and then also the supplies that the community wants or needs. So part of our engagement questionnaire survey is, you know, where should we put it? In the survey itself, it lists outside of the hospital or clinic, outside of the courthouse, somewhere downtown, and then a space for other, where people can list whatever other ideas they have.
Something I'm maybe mildly concerned about is the products that would be in it, that would be either competition to products that are sold by retailers in town. Potentially, you know, either hurting their sales of those items and or if they're given away for free and there's abuse in that system where people are just taking the items and then all of a sudden the retailers don't carry the items because they're for free in a vending machine and then nobody has them.
Yeah, I think, so, you know, those are two things that we sort of have to try to balance out. A lot of the supplies that are going to be in the machine are like small quantity. So for an example, if Tylenol or Advil was in the machine, it would be in a 2-dose, you know, packet. It wouldn't be like a whole bottle or, you know, whatever. Like oral hygiene supplies, like a toothbrush and a toothpaste or something like that. I think that there's always a risk for, you know, a free service to be abused. Excuse me. Part of how the machine is built is it has a built-in monitoring system that tells you how many supplies are going out and, you know, what time of day, and you can sort of set what notifications or what information you want to learn. So if we find that, you know, one of the options in the survey is snacks, right? So if we put Cliff Bars in there and on day one, all of the Cliff Bars are gone, then we sort of have to think about, okay, is somebody really needing Cliff Bars or are there a bunch of kids coming in getting free Cliff Bars, right? And then we can use that data to sort of adjust or, you know, whatever, adjust the supplies or the quantities or whatever that looks like. I think that, you know, when you look at machines that are placed in more urban areas versus rural, you really have to sort of take those into account, right? How is it going to impact other businesses? And, you know, there is always a potential, but hopefully, you know, we can put in enough mitigating factors to prevent, or if those abuses start to be more prevalent, then we can make adjustments.
And then the last question was how long is this like survey going to be going on, where you're gonna be doing collecting data from?
Well, it's sort of open-ended at this point. My initial plan was that we would collect community engagement and information over the summer with the hopes that we would put it up before winter. But it didn't move as fast as I thought that it would. So at least through September is what I envision. I don't have an official close date. I have, you know, we did a newspaper article. I did a WTIP interview recording today. We are putting some flyers up. Thank you. Right now I'm sort of working on where can I show up in our community to talk to people about it, because I think part of it is, you know, filling out a survey is easy, right? You just click some boxes, but if nobody has the opportunity to ask you questions or have a conversation about it, then, you know, maybe they don't want to fill out the survey, or maybe they fill it out in a way that, you know, doesn't really represent their thoughts because they don't know all of the information. So I'm sort of compiling a list of, short of like standing outside of the co-op,
Sure.
like, like the farmer's market and places where I can be in the community to talk to people about it is an important step that needs to happen still, so at least through September.
Yeah.
I would also add that there would be, once the machine is up and running, and we sort of have some of that data on what's being used and what isn't, doing a re-engagement process to figure out, is it serving the needs of the community? Do people have concerns, and asking those questions post installation also.
Other questions?
No? Sounds great to me.
At this point, it's an awareness for us.
Yeah, yep. So mostly just to share information, and to, if you have questions or thoughts, you can always ask me later too if something, pops up. But just to share the information more widely, in the community. You all are leaders in our community, so the more information you have, the better. And if in the end, when all of the survey results are sort of tallied, we have to weigh out like, based on the feedback that we get versus what's actually feasible, if downtown ends up being the winning location that people choose, we have to have some ideas of where we might put that downtown. So, eventually, if that is the winner, we might be coming to ask for some support in placing it downtown somewhere. But at this point, there's no direct ask.
Okay.
And maybe it's in the links you provided, but do you have data about where other rural small communities have placed theirs versus maybe in this urban location?
Yeah, so laundromats are a place that a lot of them are put, or outside of like a community center, or a place where people already go. Ours is rated for outdoors, so wherever it ends up will be outside. It's fully temperature controlled and all of that, so it needs a dedicated electric outlet, but the data and it has its own wireless connection and all of that, so all of that's included. So laundromats, community centers, libraries, things like that. We, in the initial sort of round of where might we put this, when we were looking around, we did look at the community center. We didn't explore the library, but we looked at the community center and a few other places, and we sort of felt a little bit uncomfortable about the community center just because there are so many like younger kid activities there. While we sort of have to balance out the risk of who's going to use the machine and who isn't, putting it sort of right outside the community center where most of the day is a bunch of children that may or may not have their grown-ups, we, after a meeting with Sarah, we were like, maybe this isn't the place. So, yeah, did that answer your question? That was a long answer.
And that leads to one of the other questions I was gonna ask anyways, and maybe you've answered it indirectly, but who's your target market? Is it youth? Is it just adults? Is it something broader than that? Which would have led to the question that you just somewhat answered. You chose not to have it by where you thought there would be more kids, or at least kids on their own, so to
Right,
speak.
free range children, yeah. And I think here in our community, it's a little bit trickier because, a lot of small communities, but there are a lot of free range children around. And so, we sort of have to balance that out. The focus audience for the machine really in a community like ours is anyone who needs supplies that can't afford them or can't find them or buy them, or the store is closed, or, you know, whatever that might look like. If you think about after the gas station closes, you know, there's really nowhere to get anything. And if you don't have enough money to get the anything, then you can't even go to the gas station or wherever it might be. So, I mean, it's not, our small children are not our focus audience, but, which is probably why we will end up not putting snacks in it. When you look at one place in like an urban setting, you know, they're geared for a very specific population, and, you know, snacks and water and socks and, you know, all of that stuff is maybe a little bit more important, but we'll just have to see what sort of feedback we get. I will say that snacks and socks are the lowest on the survey so far.
I haven't
of what
done it
you
yet.
heard.
You would?
I haven't done the survey.
Oh, well, the socks are really important too. Yeah.
So how was it determined originally that this was wanted, needed, supported, appropriate for our particular community?
Yes, well, that is interesting. So throughout the course of the 4 years of our Rural Community Opioid Response Grant, we talked about it off and on, because they are becoming more popular in communities. And initially, I'll just be honest, initially I really didn't support it right away because, you know, the traditional focus audience is, you know, people who use substances, right? So it's got a lot of those risk reduction supplies in it. And also, when you put something up like this, you really have to do that due diligence, and how does the community accept it? How do they want it to be? Where do they want it to be? And so when our grant administrator said, you know, we have this money, we should use it for this, I was fairly reluctant because I didn't have an opportunity to do any engagement or even talk about it because, you know, we didn't really see it as a high priority. And then we started having conversations with other locations that had them, and we decided that in the end it was better to accept it and use it later if that's what it came down to, than to say no. And if, you know, the community eventually said, why don't we have one of these, then there would be me saying, oh, because I said no thank you. And also I think, you know, another layer is after Grand Portage Human Services installed the 2 vending machines that they have, you know, we really were like, oh, okay, so, you know, we can use this as potentially an extension of those services, and I mean, not an extension of those services, but in complement to those services.
And so how did that go up there for them? You know, the ones that are already there?
Well, I don't directly know, no. I know, I mean, informally I know that it's going well, but I can't speak to specifics, no.
So you haven't, when you guys meet and talk about stuff, you haven't gotten any data from them, or has it been too soon?
No, I haven't gotten any data. It's more of a casual, like, how's it going? Are the supplies being used? You know, and it's any information that I have received has been positive, but.
So then, is it 2 machines sitting together with all different items? Or is it 2 machines in different locations with the same items?
Are you talking about in Grand Portage?
Yeah.
Oh, the machines are in 2 separate locations, but I don't know the specifics on the items.
Okay. I thought, well, maybe you put them together and you get more,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
They're separate. So they probably have the same thing in different locations.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Gotcha.
How long has theirs been in place? Not very long?
I would I'm really bad with time frames.
That's okay, if you don't know, that's fine.
Less than a year, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
I mean, it's, you know, a separate parallel initiative, so I can't really speak to.
Okay.
And I am just really bad with time frames. Before COVID or after is the what my brain does.
Okay, thanks.
So do you know, are these things like in Silver Bay, Two Harbors, Ely, anything like that?
No, there's not any that I'm aware of in Silver Bay or Two Harbors, or Ely. No, I don't know. A lot of the agencies that I talked to about the machine itself were actually in Wisconsin because they had more outdoor machines. Sometimes the indoor machines are cheaper to purchase if you have an indoor location that's accessible 24 hours. And since in our immediate vicinity we don't have any 24-hour locations, I went for the outdoor machine.
And those locations in Wisconsin, where were they? Were they other small towns like this?
Yeah.
And, okay, so when you kind of answered Bill's question, was that because he said outdoor machines? I mean, do Ely or any of those places have indoor machines, or are they just not part of this?
You know, I don't, not that I'm aware of, sorry. No, maybe I
Okay.
didn't answer your question. Apologies.
Well, I just feel like you're being super specific. That
No.
maybe we better kind of
No.
open this up again.
No, I actually don't. Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. And this is your suggested list on your survey, and people can say other. I take it.
Yeah, so the tricky part about the machine was when we ordered it, we had to design it based on products. So we actually worked with the individual that helped to set up the vending machine in Fond du Lac, and we used some of the supplies that you know, they had suggested to set up the machine. So this list that's on here is actually what the slots have to be designed for certain products initially, and then when you change them out to different products, you just have to make sure they fit in the slot, right? So these are the things that we initially designed it for, and then also, you know, almost all of these products we have available in some capacity already. And sometimes it's easier to think about what you might want in the machine if you see a list of potential ideas, right? We have gotten a lot of other suggestions on, you know, what else to put in the machine also, but yeah. There's a spot, you know, what else do you think would be useful in the machine? A lot of like baby diapers, formula, other over-the-counter medications, water.
Anyone mention by the food shelf? When you think of people who really have need and they're going there.
Right. Nobody did actually.
Okay.
I'll write that down. I mean, churches were some of the other suggested locations, but
Okay.
So when does the survey go live?
it's live
It is.
now. Yep, it's been live technically for 81 days today, and we have 43 responses, but the bulk of those responses really have come in the last week and a half. So 43 responses in approximately 2 weeks I thought was a solid win.
That's good.
How visible is that survey?
Well, That's always the question for us is where do we put stuff so people can see it? So newspaper article, Boreal, WTIP interview should come out soon. We have the social media posts, sometime this week or early next week, there'll be flyers, kind of like the one that's on the, what do you call this, electronic billboard
The
thing?
city bulletin board.
City bulletin board, thank you. And then, I think that covers probably all the media sort of platforms, and then it's really just me getting out there and being able to talk to people.
Great.
Anything else? Lisa, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I learned a lot more than you're right, it's important to come out with conversation, because that led to questions I wouldn't have thought of before,
Yeah.
and listening to everyone else's questions, so.
Yeah, and if you have any other thoughts or questions, feel free to let me know, fill out the survey.
Yeah.
Spot to hang a flyer.
Spot to hang a flyer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alright, so that moves us along to the budget. This is your little timeline, Mike?
And as you can see, we've already started. That should be no surprise to you because you've actually already approved one department budget, the library budget, which has also now been preliminarily approved by the county as well. So that's great, great start. The rest of our departments submitted their draft budgets, as you can see here, by July 24th. So we've had them in our hands for about a week and a half now. The expense side, we're about done putting that together and it's looking pretty good. I think our department heads, they're always very responsible about maintaining. If there's something that's actually different and changing, that's something we want to bring to a board to talk about rather than just salaries or other things. So there's not a lot of major factors in our levy supported budgets on the expense side of things that are going to change. The revenue side's different, particularly considering what happened in these past couple weeks in the community. So we're not quite ready to look at a summary of the budget until we've spent a little more time on the revenue side of things. But you'll see that in the upcoming weeks. The other important factor is that we want to schedule time with department heads to come and present their budgets to you and give you a chance to ask questions and dig in at a line item detail. The next obvious time to do that would be the work session scheduled 2 weeks from now, but that's only an hour. We're gonna need more time than that, probably at least 2 hours, maybe 3 to go through all of it. So we're also looking for what your availability is to schedule additional time with department heads. The end game here is that you have a meeting on September 2nd. And then your next meeting isn't until the 16th, which is the day after the preliminary levy is due, the 15th. So now the preliminary levy conversation either has to be completed at your regular meeting on September 2nd, or we need to have an additional meeting scheduled before the 15th. We don't have to make that decision yet because we've got a whole month here before we get to that meeting on the September 2nd. So some options to consider other than the work session on the 19th. We could start that work session earlier than 5:30. We could also come back on the 26th, the last Wednesday of August. There is a planning commission meeting scheduled for that day, but we could meet before or after that to do work sessions. Before would be better for staff if people can do again earlier than 5:30. Like those are the 2 weeks that we want to aim for, so I'm picking Wednesdays since those are our typical meeting days, but we can also meet other days if that works for folks.
So can you send out that in a note, maybe a little mini survey or something?
We can definitely do a doodle to offer you a few times and pick the ones that work best.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
And then, I think you've all done this before now, when we'll have the department heads in here, you will have their actual line item budgets in front of you. Those spreadsheets show by category, a history of what they've spent, what this year's budget was, what they've spent to date this year, and what the proposed budget is next year, that we can talk about all that. And it's an expense budget for most of them, and also a revenue budget for some of them. I think the real exciting conversations, budget-wise, are gonna happen for the PUC rather than the city council. As we're really doing a lot of ramping up of the capital improvement plan, which is one of our focuses this year. Obviously, you know about the wastewater treatment plant and the many different things. That's not new, they've been planning about that for years. Now we've been gathering a lot of information about the water plant as well. So, those conversations will be thorough, interesting. Their timeline's not the same, they don't have to complete theirs by September 2nd. They can go all the way to the end of the year and likely will be. So, anybody have any questions about upcoming budget? Okay, look for a doodle poll from us tomorrow then, and we'll get those scheduled.
Great.
All right. Still your show, administrator report.
Terrific. We had a department head meeting today, and one of the things we talked about was how great we thought the picnic went this year. Minor hiccups, things that we know how to deal with that come up all the time that our staff really rose to the occasion and dealt with. A lot of credit goes to I'd like to say many, I think they wished it was many more volunteers, but all the folks that worked on putting this together, I think they did a great job. A lot of people in town, and as far as I know, everything went great, and everybody had a good time, and so thank you to all those volunteers that did that. I hope that they felt like it was successful as well. Something else we talked about was we've been spending a few months in a row now with Ravina coming to our meeting and talking about a personnel policy that we're working on. One of our strategies in updating the personnel policy was to involve the department heads in the conversation up front as the policies are being written, so that they first have a chance to provide input and make sure the policy works for them, but also so that they understand what's going on and why, as it will become their policy to be enforcing with their folks. Today we looked at earned sick and safe time and other sick time, which there's a lot of categories these days on that, with a lot of changes at the state level in the past few years. So that policy is a little longer than it used to be. Not a lot of conversation about that, just a few things. Next meeting, we'll be talking about an attendance policy and also just cause and what that means for disciplinary action. So those are good things. A lot of the juicy ones we want to handle early, just to get people in the habit of thinking about these policies, and so we wanted to pick ones that we knew people would have thoughts about and input on, rather than some of the ones where it's just, this is a state rule, we have to have it say this, we don't really have a choice. Our goal is to have a document, I don't know if the whole thing will be done by the end of the year, but we're working towards that, and it's going very well so far. So again, thanks to Ravina for her help on it, and all of our department heads for their participation and work. Next week, I'm currently tentatively planning on attending the SIMPA meeting. I say tentatively because it's in Fairmont. If you don't have a map in your head, that is a long ways from here.
It's southeast.
It's on 90 west, not east. So it's not quite to Worthington, but it's out there a ways. I've been to that meeting once before, so it's a lovely drive. But that's the current plan, is to make it, and again, that, changing the city council schedule is making that possible. Otherwise, that meeting wouldn't be, I couldn't make it back in time.
Right.
I've been finding that a lot of the simple meetings, which are scheduled from 9 to noon on the second Wednesday of the month, have been going long. So I guess that's good, that there's lots of important and interesting things to talk about, but boy, a 3.5-hour meeting and then hopping in the car and trying to hurry back that's not gonna work, so. Now I will have time to slowly make my way back and be here in time for work on Thursday. And thus concludes my report.
Thanks.
Oh, I suppose that's me. Thank you. So we had a very brief library meeting. You heard about the budget at the county, that was good. And the only piece of new business was they were looking to have 2.5 hours to do training for the staff. So it'll take 2.5 hours out of October the 15th so that they can do some training with the staff. And we approved that. Seemed like a fair thing to do. And yeah, so that was that meeting, pretty quick. Then we had an ARDC, or I had an ARDC meeting, and it was long because we did, we had a couple of things come together at once. We had both the preliminary budget that we went over in great detail. And then we also got the late annual report from last year. So we got both of those together. So it was very long, detailed, but got it. Looks like everything is staying the same in terms of any, the levy that we pay and all that kind of thing. Wasn't really changing, so everything was good. So all was well in the world, ultimately.
Is Betsy now running? Is she there?
Oh, right, yeah.
Full-time ready in?
She is now in position. Yeah, this was sort of the last hurrah for the previous director.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think she's still going to be around, just as people do in those kinds of, nonprofit world, to help out with things that people forget how to do and all that kind of thing. Then we also had planning and zoning. And we had the Great Expeditions Foundation come to us and ask about making an amendment to the highway mixed use zone and also possibly rezoning them into that zone. So they had a letter, they sent it to us, we read it, and their basic question was, are we going in the right direction? And they're going to come back with an official ask at our next meeting for that.
We'll have a public hearing scheduled for that meeting.
Yeah.
Which is the last Wednesday of this month.
That makes sense.
Say it one more time, just 2 sentences really quick for me.
Okay. They sent a letter.
Who's the they?
Sorry.
Great Expectations
Great
Foundation.
Expectations, sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
They sent us a letter asking, hey,
Okay.
would you consider this? Are we going in the right direction?
Okay, thank you. That was
Survey
the
the
part that I.
group. Sorry if I
No, that was
skipped
me.
it, because I had it in my head already, because I was there.
Long day, sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry.
Got it.
Yeah. And so, yep, they're gonna come back with an official ask, and then it'll come to us. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Oh, wait, no. I
Oh.
lied. EDA.
Oh, yeah, you
Shoot.
covered the EDA.
I did. I showed up for that. And there. Yeah, so there were just two minor changes to agreements that had already been done. So those weren't any big deal. A change to the agreement that had already been made with Sydney's, and then there was a change in, it sounds like in basically who was named in the agreement between let's see, it was originally East Bay. Oh, no. Switched it to East Bay instead of Sisu Loyalty project. Do you remember that? Anyway, they just wanted us to make sure that the person that was, or the entity that was actually in charge of the land was the one on there. So,
And when you say East Bay, you mean East Bay Holding Company LLC
yes,
and not the East Bay Hotel?
yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good,
I get it.
important to know.
Okay.
And then the last thing was approving an agreement with Bar Engineering to design a water system for Superior National. Obviously, that's not our world, but I just thought it was really interesting that the EDA needed to make sure that they had a permanent irrigation system there before they could sell it.
That and the septic are the parts of the terms of the sale
Yeah,
that they
so
have to.
so they hired Bar Engineering to kind of do all the, well, eventually to hire the people to do all the work, but to also do all the planning.
That's
Yeah.
been going back and forth between using the old system and connecting up potentially with that Poplar River, what is it, conservation, whatever.
Yeah,
And it's been a moving target, so that's interesting.
yeah, it was fascinating.
Did they say if they've changed the date beyond about the third week of this month, something like that? Did they mention a closing date at all?
I didn't capture that. I was.
Okay, well, they may
Oh,
I
have.
haven't heard any changes to it.
Okay. Well, we better go knock on some wood and.
Yeah, yes, right. Hope this continues. There we go. Okay, sorry.
No.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay, so Arrowhead Animal Rescue, they just are seeking affirmation that the project is indeed moving along at the anticipated pace, I guess they. I don't think they have anything to worry about, it's just,
Be nice to have a schedule pinned
it
down.
would be nice to have something to give them.
We are currently in the typical Cook County situation of contractors are acquired but not on site. Sometimes those dates are hard to pin down. I'm working on pinning it.
And they continue to make efforts to fundraise and get more publicity about what they're doing, but they're wanting something when people ask, well, when will we see it?
Yeah, I think we might be able to just start just a couple of things. Just to show some change.
That would be good.
Yeah.
What's that?
Nothing, just planning and zoning and more to come on that, so.
Okay. Last Friday, I was asked to go up for the press conference held for the fires up at Hungry Jack Lodge. And Michael Gary and Amanda were there as well. And the prior week, they had that same press conference in Ely. And their ultimate objective was hopefully to request some state relief for the economic loss from this. And they had a packed house and a very good showing. And after all of us did our whatevers, then, which really should have been inverse, I think. Like they should have had all the business owners and everyone speak. That should have been either first or the bigger, but it's a necessity, I guess. But I have to say, when Amanda spoke on behalf of the Y and explained the filters in the pool and the whole air thing, I learned a lot. Same thing, you start to make assumptions about things you don't know, so I learned a lot. And then realized the economic impact of that for the Y, with those fires and the cost of the filters and replacing the filters and how that increases because of the smoke and the whole thing. So that was good, not to mention that many of the people spoke up, and a lot of comment had to do more about the press releases and how those were handled
Mm.
and how they had a huge influence on what happened to our traffic in the area. But yeah, they had a packed house and people got a chance to speak, so I think that went well. Friday we have our law enforcement meeting coming up to hopefully this will be our last conversation before we can whatever bring it
Should
forward
be.
on that. So
And that's you and Ben, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that'll be good. We continue to talk about Taconite Harbor and the ponds and all that goes with the PUC and whatnot. I have mentioned this a couple times at community leadership meetings. I had a chance to talk to Bobby DeShaw just briefly on Friday. And one of the things I had mentioned already in them to writing was I'd like to have the conversation broadened. I believe the county belongs at the table on this. And Mike's going to be starting some of that. But, you know, we're focusing on Mercury in one spot, but that's just the first item selected on a long list on our variance plan that we have to look at. That's our plan. And that was just the first item chosen to look at. And we have a lot more items, and many of them are outside of the county, or I should say in the county, but outside of city limits. So we'll have to keep working on that. And I think that's another reason why the county needs to come to the table, not only the fact that the initial piece we're working on now happens to be out in county property too, in the West End, and Schroeder and them should have a voice on that too, and awareness. But you know, like I said, our system for the rest of the county relies on the city and a private business owner, or they don't have a system. And they need to be thinking about that, and some of the potential sources could be coming from there. So we need to do this together. And I don't know what that looks like, but I think there needs to be some awareness and whatever that way. So we're sitting there on that. And I certainly owe all of you some documents too to look at from the various things that I've been reading and looking at, and you know, the PUC and everyone else. So do that. I think that's it for me.
That's great. And it was so important to go to that meeting up the trail. Just,
Yeah, it was
I
good.
hope we see something from that.
You've seen perhaps the reports today in the media that the governor's come out and said he doesn't think there's gonna be a special session. He didn't say he said he's open to it, he just thinks the political reality is it's not gonna happen.
And that was really spoken multiple times. Grant and Roger both said that that Friday.
Yeah.
They kind of cautioned on that. But I think it's still an opportunity. You know, if you're ever on any social media, you know, every resort owner, outfitter, whatever, spent so much time letting people know it's okay, you can come here, we're all right. And I think Grand Marais bounced back, but we have a lot of retail. You can sell more food, you can sell more retail items, but if you're a hotel or an outfitter, there's only so much. You can't really capitalize on that. If your space is full, it's full till it's not full again. And your time window is shorter too, right? I mean, it seems like common sense to us, but it doesn't to the rest of the world. If you're only going to go out on a canoe trip, a short window of time, and when that passes, it's over with. You're not doing that in November. So they can't recoup all of that.
Yeah.
And so I think we did well, and the Fisherman's Picnic was good. That's the most positive social media I've seen from all sorts of sources in years for Fisherman's Picnic. It wasn't, and the Lions Club did a great job too, but I just mentioned that to Pete tonight. Every time I turn around, somebody is saying, you know, it was a good time, either a business, something. So I hope that helps the rest of our community.
Yeah.
The weather helps.
Yeah.
We had a great weekend.
Weather was good.
It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, bad weather and you can be toast no matter what.
So was it too hot? Was it too cold?
Yeah, so it was good. Yeah, that's me. I'm done.
Awesome.
Sure.
Yep, you're all set.
Still gotta get you that gavel.